Hey everybody, Robert from Black Belt Gaming. This is part 2 of the hit point discussions in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 1st Edition. In the first video, I talked about kind of what hit points mean by the book, actual or potential damage. And I really want to focus more on this video on how I worked as a DM and how I interpreted the potential damage. Let's start with something simple. Something from the monster manual here, something like a sturge. Looks as large as a bat, but kind of acts like a very dangerous and vicious mosquito. You could interpret this as actual damage. When these things hit you, they pierce your skin and drain blood. So what we would want to do here is we would want to take into account how much damage is being done, how many hit points the character has, and what kind of effect they suffered from the wound. So let's say you have a low-level magic user. They're hit by one of these sturges and drained for a number of hit points equal to the number of hit points they have. In that case, you're going to say that the sturge perhaps landed on their shoulder, pierced their neck into a vital artery, drained some blood, and the magic user falls bleeding out into unconsciousness. It hit a vital spot. Take, for example, a fighter, like in this picture, this drawing from the monster manual. A fighter has some more hit points. Let's say he has 9 or so. These sturges swarm in to attack. They're not going to hit him in the neck and drop him like they did the magic user. Their wounds are going to be on his arm, on his leg. They're going to be these little minor wounds that can eventually add up and drain him down to nothing. But he is withstanding these attacks better. Perhaps it's the way his armor protected his body, or perhaps it's the way he was able to swat some of the worst of the attacks aside and keep them off his vitals. All kinds of different things could be interpreted there. It's still somewhat considered actual damage because once these sturges fill up to something like 12 hit points, they fly away with their little bellies full. So you need to, I would advise you to use this more as where and how severe the damage is. And it's going to be different depending upon how many characters, how many hit points the different characters have. So a character with lower hit points is hit in a more vital area. All right, let's look at something else here. A lot of people have complained over the years about the older editions and the terrible lethality of this save or die mechanic. Let's take the giant spider, for example. Got a poisonous bite. If this thing bites you, you miss your saving throw versus poison, then your character can die. Well, how would this mix with hit points? I've heard that some people struggle with how to do potential damage and then bring poison into the equation. Well, let's keep thinking back. It's potential damage. So if this giant spider jumped on one of my players and scored a hit, they lose some hit points, and then they're going to have to make a save versus poison. But I won't even tell the character that they're bitten yet. They're not necessarily. This loss of hit points represents the threat incoming. Now, they make their saving throw. Let's say that they succeed. They save versus poison and they succeed. I have never told a character that they were bitten and poisoned and then they just shake it off. No way. What happens was they weren't bitten. They never got poison into their system. They made their saving throw. So they didn't die. The poison didn't enter their body. So spider perhaps can jump on them or come close to them to biting them. The spider jumps on them, they make their saving throw. The character shoves their arm up under its jaws and flips it off and avoids its venomous fangs. They don't get bitten. Later on, they're attacked again, lose some hit points due to the incoming threat. They make their check and they fail. Then they've been bitten. Now they have poison in their system. And now they face death. And it could be up to the dungeon master if they go right by the book and drop dead on the spot, or if it is a slower acting poison or whatever the poison may do. That's up to the DM and how severe the poison is. But it is to be expected that it kills you. That's why it's called save or die. So don't necessarily have a character been bitten and be bitten multiple times and they're just shaking off the poison like it doesn't matter. Don't see it that way. My advice is to not see it that way. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm just going to let you know what I do and what I would advise. But I would advise you to see it as they were not bitten. They were not injected with the poison unless they miss and fail their saving throw. So what about something like a dragon's breath? Something where you're going to be facing the loss of hit points whether you make the save or fail. Well, same philosophy behind it. Even if a character may make their saving throw, they're still going to take half the amount of damage. So the breath weapon causes damage equal to the dragon's hit points. Half that amount if the saving throw is made. And that's against each creature hit with the dragon's breath. So let's say that you make your saving throw, or you have enough hit points to withstand that attack. Your character might be dodging that. Your character may have ducked down behind a rock. Your character may have, jumped and rolled out of the way to the side. Whatever it may be. Your character may have held up their shield just in time, whatever. And if your character has enough hit points to survive that attack, then it was what's called potential damage. It's damage that could have killed you, but you were able to withstand and survive. Or it could have been some other magical means or divine means of protection. So, another situation, a character makes his saving throw, thinks he's in the clear, but gets half of the damage and it's still enough to kill him. Well, he was attempting to dive out of the way, but he didn't make it. It didn't work. Tried to get his shield up in time, but then it just melted the shield and just burned him to a crisp. Whatever it could be that would happen. One thing we used to allow from time to time in games, we would allow a character to throw up their shield. And if they missed their saving throw, they took half damage. And if they made their saving throw, let's see, what was it? If they missed their saving throw, they took half damage. If they made their saving throw, they took no damage. But their shield in both situations was destroyed. So it can only be used that way once against Dragon's Breath. So anyway, again, it depends on how many hit points the character has, and that's going to describe exactly what the effect of the attack has on them. They might survive and they might not survive, but it doesn't always mean that they're hit. So even if they get hit with the damage, let's say they fail their saving throw and they're hit with the damage, it's different than poison. They don't die. They're taking hit points of damage. So what you see here is more potential damage. They took all these hit points of damage, but they still survived. It doesn't mean they were blasted with fire in the face and then they stand there and go, ha-ha. It doesn't mean that. It means that they dodged and got out of the way. That's the hit points protecting them.